experience. So our goal here today is to help you navigate this new world so you can understand what's changing and why it matters and how we can all adapt. AI is impacting search in three core ways, moving us from a list of 10 blue links on a search page to a more conversational, answer-focused experience. So first, we have what we call AI overviews. You've probably already seen this already. Instead of just a list of websites, Google now provides an AI-generated summary at the very top of the results, something like this, giving you a quick answer to any of your questions that you have. So think of it as more so of a helpful assistant that reads a few articles for you and just gives you the highlights. We then also have what we call AI mode. This is a more interactive chat-like experience within the search engine itself. It turns a simple search into a conversation. So you can ask a question and then ask follow-up questions, and then AI will continue the dialogue, helping you explore a topic more deeply and naturally. We also have what we call large language models or LLMs. So think of your Google Gemini's, Claude AI, your ChatGPT. These are the powerful AI systems that make all of this possible. They are the engine behind the operation, capable of understanding and generating human-like text. So the rise of LLMs means users are increasingly turning to them directly for answers, which can bypass traditional search engine entirely. But I want to take a closer look at AI overviews. As mentioned before, there are AI-generated summaries. The key difference from the old feature snippets, if you have been using Google, you know that feature snippets section. A feature snippet would typically pull a sentence from a single website. An AI overview synthesizes a new concise summary by reading and compiling information from multiple web sources. It's really pretty much a new piece of content is created on the spot when you actually search a question, which is very, very cool. So their purpose is to provide you direct answers. They are designed to satisfy your query instantly so that a user doesn't have to click on multiple links to find what they're looking for. And it's a big reason for what we're now calling a zero-click phenomenon, which we will discuss more deeply in the next few slides. According to Google, these overviews are being used by billions of users a billion times, and they've resulted in high user satisfaction because they streamline the search process. So what is the impact of all of this? I'm already sure you guys are a little bit of aware of what's going on here. This has a huge significant impact on traffic. So I'm going to throw a few stats to give you kind of a basis of what's really happening. So a study done by Digital Content Next, or DCN, shows that many of its publishers are seeing traffic losses from Google ranging from 1% to 25%. There was also a report done by RFs noted a 34.5% drop in click-through rates for the top ranking page on some keywords when an AI overview was present. Also, research done by Moores suggests that informational content traffic could drop by as much as 18 to 64% there. So I'm not just trying to scare you with all these stats and all these theories. We are actually seeing this reality right now. Informational queries, things like how to, what is, are the most affected when it comes to AI. Websites that rely on these types of searches for traffic are seeing the biggest changes. So it's a very much of a stark reminder that while the impressions or the number of times our content is seen when it's on Google might be stable, the clicks we used to count on are no longer guaranteed. It's what people are calling the great decoupling, when visibility and traffic are no longer directly linked anymore. So you can't just rely on clicks and impressions for your metrics anymore, which is always fun. So these changes are not just coming from Google. The entire AI ecosystem is shifting rapidly. even as we speak, new changes are constantly happening. This slide shows a striking example of this with ChatGPT. So another recent analysis done by Profound found that referral traffic from ChatGPT to websites dropped by a dramatic 52% in just a month. This was an analysis done by Search Engine Land. This isn't because fewer people are using ChatGPT, it's because of OpenAI, which, as you probably already know, owns ChatGPT. It has been changing the way it provides answers. So instead of sending users to a variety of websites, ChatGPT is now heavily favoring a small handful of answer first platforms such as Reddit and Wikipedia. So these sites often provide detailed conversational and user generated content that aligns perfectly with an AI's need for direct answers. As data shows, citations to Reddit and Wikipedia have surged in recent times. But the key takeaway here is that AI platforms are becoming content destinations in themselves. They're trying to give users a complete experience within their interface. For us, this means the opportunity is no longer to send people to a link or just about getting a link. It's about being an authoritative source that AI chooses to cite to begin with. The good news when these platforms do send traffic, it can be very highly qualified. So another study done by SEMrush found that a visitor from an LLM such as ChatGPT is 4.4 times more likely to convert than an average visitor from traditional search because they're already primed, they're already well informed, and all. But however, another recent study, as studies are now just constantly happening now when it comes to this, they're finding that LM traffic is roughly the same as organic search traffic. But the key takeaway here is that while the volume may be smaller, the audience is often very highly engaged. So with all these changes, how do we measure success? The old playbook isn't enough anymore. As I briefly mentioned before, I talked about what's called a zero-click phenomenon. That is the biggest challenge we are going to be facing, which the zero-click searches are leading to traffic reduction, especially for informational content. We can't just rely on clicks as our only metric anymore. And this is where it kind of gets tricky when you are looking at measuring. We have in Google Search Console or GSC, which many of us use to measure organic performance. The clicks and impressions from AI overviews are currently grouped with traditional search results. So this makes it a little bit difficult in terms to see the impact of AI on our site's performances specifically. We are monitoring updates as Google has made similar changes when they introduced Discover, when they introduced news traffic in the past. So just keep an eye out. There will be updates in terms of how Google's going to measure this going forward. However, we can actually get more insights with GA4 or Google Analytics 4. We can create custom reports to isolate traffic coming from LLMs such as Gemini and ChatGPT. So this will help us see which chatbots are sending visitors to our sites, which is a key first step in really analyzing what's happening there. So the action item for all of us is to start setting up this tracking now to get a good baseline. We won't capture all the data since Google Search Console isn't tracking impressions separately, but it will give us a much better picture of how this new conversational search is affecting our site. And I have a practical example to share with you in terms of this. So this is a screenshot. This screenshot is based on Google Analytics 4 to kind of just help people get started into what to look at. So the first step is to, when you go onto Google Analytics 4, is to go to your reports section, then under acquisitions here, and then under user acquisitions, you'll get there and you'll find something like this. You can change your primary dimension to session source or first user source as we've done here to see a list of where your users are coming from. From here, we can set up a filter to look for traffic from non-AI sources. So we've set it up for ChatGPT here, and you can see just ChatGPT traffic coming through, but you can also see quality of traffic. So this report shows us metrics such as new users, returning users, and engagement rate. You can obviously customize this to what suits you and what suits your business in more detail as well. But this allows us to understand if these AI visitors are sticking around and interacting with our content. So you can set up similar filters using regular expression or regex to capture a list of AI platforms and isolate this traffic from your general data. This is a small step, but it is very critical towards understanding how our content is performing in the new era of search. And I'll be passing it on to Ryan.
Thanks, Michelle. So yeah, how does AI search impact my content strategy? So going into this, it's when it comes to content, so there's four things to think about. So this is where I see that SEO has gone full circle, sort of back to traditional SEO. It's again about creating content that serves a purpose and gives the user what they want, like what they're looking for, not just a headline that turns into paragraphs of like keyword stuff in and FAQs before you actually realize that the answer that you're looking for isn't on the page. It's just that the author is also asking the same question as you or trying to give you a bit of food for thought. So the first step is why a user should visit your website. So what purpose does your website serve? Are you there to be informative and give downloadable assets? Do you conduct research yourself and need donations? Or are you a resource for those in need of help and advice? And then the second thing to consider, do you have information that users can't find anywhere else? So what makes your offering unique? Why should the user scroll and click on your site? Are you presenting your own research, or does your offering give users a specific answer to their question that they're looking for? The third point then is, do you have content that can't be summarized? So trying to avoid those AI summaries. Is your content informational and cited, making it easy to, again, be referenced and summarized? Or do you create content that provides a mix of customer quotes, founder stories, worked into research pieces that give real life examples, things that are unique to your website? And then why should they come back? Why should users come back to your website? What will bring a user back to your website? So the usability will play a big role, but also how well their query was answered. So this is where the importance of UX and technical SEO play a big role, as well as the content itself. And then you're probably thinking, what else can I do? Like SEO is always changing. AI has sort of thrown a spanner in the works there, where everyone thought they've perfected it and finally gotten the grips. And now there's a brand new thing to learn. So you've taken all of that into consideration, started building out your content, and now you want to present it on your website. The first thing is building topical authority. So continuing with the SEO basics, really. You don't just write one article and that's it. It's about creating a cluster with a central pillar that then leads to other pillars being built until you have a solid SEO kind of fortress that captures all relevant queries and just delivers a solid experience and environment for the user. And then there's embracing structured data, so like the schema markup. Embracing structured data helps with embracing AI overviews, really. So with things like the FAQ page, and then highlighting other things like donation actions and organization-specific pages and questions about your company. This helps with summarizing the content within the page and allowing AI to easily read that. And then even with the lack of an AI overview, so maybe it's not being created for a specific query, that means that these pages can easily be crawled and scanned and show up, hopefully, at the top of a result page. And then SEO content. So it's important to remember it's not just written content that has an impact on SEO. And then even outside of SEO, it's about thinking about your other channels. So your digital assets and your community help contribute here too. And with other platforms like TikTok, for example, stepping into the SEO space, that it's been used as an SEO, well, it's been used as a search platform recently, but more so people looking for the kind of things that they'd go to Google for, like how-tos and help with like designing a home, planning a holiday, things like that. It's sort of changed how we search. And then there's other platforms like Twitter and Reddit that quite often show up in the top 10 results for commonly asked questions in Google. This does allow that then your SEO strategy to be a bit more all-encompassing as a digital strategy across all of the channels. And then also the benefit of having things like Twitter and Reddit show up in search results is that you can continue the customer journey on those platforms by having your digital channels prominent on there, but also expanding your marketing onto things like Twitter and Reddit. They're very good for actually reaching quite niche audiences. So when the customer's directed there from someone that may have previously clicked on your page through Google, it's a bit of a longer customer journey as they're going through, say, Reddit, but then they're still seeing your brand and it's building up more of brand identity with that customer then. And then onto building the brand. So another way to work with AI on search platforms is to try and avoid it entirely. It's probably best to actually adopt AI, but we know that not everyone is like AI's biggest fan. So in terms of avoiding AI, it's about making the most of your other channels and trying to encourage more direct traffic directly to your website. So like I said, this will be a longer customer journey and involve warming up your audience a lot more. It's about reaching people with cold ads, sending them branded emails, SMS, but then when you've actually gotten through to that user, they will then become one of your biggest advocates and quite a valuable user in the end. They'll tend to search for you directly, and then, like I said, they'll be your advocates. They'll be answering questions on your behalf on things like Reddit and on Quora. And then, like I said, you can advertise on Reddit, you can advertise on Quora, and it's about building that all-encompassing brand identity across different digital platforms. And you're pretty much building a network of word of mouth marketing, which, as we all know, is the highest impact of all marketing, really. It's that direct review from a peer that you trust. And then looking at retaining these supporters. So, like I said, they're a very valuable user for your company. Retaining these users relies on inspirational content, engaging content, things that's refreshing and keeping them engaged. And then that becomes the marketing goal is how do you create this content to keep them on your website or to trust your website enough that they go directly to it to get answers. And this is where you can really utilize AI yourself with chatbot style systems and Q&A style systems using RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. So this is like a chatbot. It reads your site and anything that you feed it, and it'll start talking in your tone of voice and be able to reference back to anything on your website or anything within your brand ethos, things like that, and give that to the user who's searching with a probably quite specific query. It's extra steps that you're relying on a user doing, like clicking directly through to your website to then use that as a search engine, essentially. But once you've built that trust, they're quite likely and quite happy to do that because they know that the answer that they get will be more, well, related to your company and specifically answer their query. And then what about traditional SEO? So again, traditional SEO is what I believe more important than ever. As discussed, it's sort of gone full circle again, back to where SEO used to be, not just keyword stuffing and making sure that the structure is there. It is more about actually delivering relevant content. That being said, page structure does need to be there. It's probably the most important thing now with AI reading your pages. So they need to be readable for when they're crawled. And then this does allow you to answer more specific questions. And then you can have specific content answering specific questions, or at least be the reference point for those answers. So delivering the right content that AI overviews can summarize. And then you get that obvious brand uplift from appearing in the AI overviews. And then it's about focusing on difficult to summarize content. So outside of appearing in those AI overviews, you want to be within the top 3 results, ideally, or at least on that first page. So you should have a focus on creating difficult to summarize content and unique to you content. Creating content that can only be shown on your website means stepping back to those traditional SEO practices like creating case studies, customer reviews and experiences, your own research. So these are all things that are unique to you and can't be summarized elsewhere. And even if they are summarized by an AI overview, it's very brand heavy. So you do get that brand uplift, and that consumer probably is clicking through to your site anyway. So you may not get the direct click, but you've still made the impact that that user wanted. And then things like news updates and inspirational stories, those are the things that tend to be able to be summarized because they can be referenced in like different news sites and things like that, but they only come with the branded terms. So it's about becoming the truth for that source, whether directly or not. And either way, you get that brand uplift from the user's search. And then into the unknown. So, what is next for AI, SEO, and anything digital? Whether we like it or not, AI is taking over a lot of platforms, and that's not going to go away. It's pretty much you have to adapt now or play catch up later on. So it's about changing in content focus. AI will answer questions and it will replace the search results. So there's naturally going to be a reduction in informational content being produced. We do see a lot of informational content produced for the sake of it because, well, as a marketing agency, we would have told clients previously, this is where the searches are coming from. You need to create the content that encompasses these certain keywords. And then quite often those pieces become keyword stuff in articles that have been produced 100 times before, and it's just competing with each other to try and be that top article. So it's all the same information, but who can say it the best to reach the queries with the most impressions, essentially. And I believe we're going to see a reduction in this sort of material just because AI overviews are now taking over those kinds of queries. Research and write-ups will still be produced as they tend to be, well, the most important articles in terms of people searching for informative content. Like everything else is created around those research pieces. And then these research pieces are now being used to train the AI models. So any questions can be easily answered, and you'll see more AI overviews for those general queries. You probably see the research and write-up then appearing in the top 5 results, and a lot less pages and articles by like agencies and service providers just outlining things like what is SEO or what is the impact that it has on specific services and specific industries. For the short term, I think content's still going to be produced, but it will start fading out as everyone realizes that the traffic is reducing. And then it's just about thinking, where do you go to present this kind of information? And that's where it's more looking at other digital channels. So as an agency, we're creating articles like that a lot less, but we're still creating that content and putting it in the form of like videos for TikTok or carousels on LinkedIn. And then it's just about prioritizing your core messages and offering on your website. So really reserving that for what's specific about your business and what you're actually doing. And then there's AI mode, which Michelle's touched on. AI mode will impact the search results as well, as it's turning search more into a conversation experience. So it's if you're asking AI to create a mood board or suggest like an outfit that fits a specific occasion, this removes the need for pieces like how-to guides and lengthy pieces on like transforming your living space and turns them more into like a digestible conversation that continuously gets tailored to you prompt after prompt, naturally reducing those how-to guides and just taking people away from the search experience itself. And then there's paid ads in AI overviews, which are still quite an interesting one. So they've not rolled out everywhere yet. There's a few tests going on in the States, but it'll be interesting to see how it does roll out en masse. I feel like it feels like sort of a bribe that you can get AI overview to sway towards your article or your view on a certain subject, and obviously then that can be slightly problematic with certain topics. But even if it's just sponsored content that can appear at the bottom of an AI overview, then this again takes the user experience in a different direction. So it can open up like a new style of guerrilla marketing where advertisers can overtake indirect competition with certain queries. For example, if you're asking Google, how do I drive a car? The AI overview will give you a very comprehensive answer, but then the sponsored content below that will just say, you don't need to drive a car, you can just book an Uber. And I think it can really allow for a lot of creative marketing to come into place. Again, I'm sure we'll see limitations and regulations, but with it all up in the air, I'm quite skeptical at the moment. All we can think of is the best case, the worst case, and then there will be the actual use case. So what will all of this mean for SEO and digital marketing as a whole? So the impacts that we're already seeing right now have been implemented and adapted to quite easily within the marketing world. Things like performance max campaigns and broad match keywords. There's still plenty of PMax skeptics, but pretty much every account that we manage now will have a PMax campaign. It's there to drive that top funnel activity and get conversions through existing data. It does it quite well. It goes through its learning phase and learns a lot of different things that maybe we wouldn't. And then there's also the broad match words, which are also helping to increase the relevancy of different campaigns. It allows you to be shown in searches that maybe you wouldn't consider. Some of them may be quite rogue sometimes, but again, it's you training the platform, so you can tell the campaign not to target those keywords anymore, and you'll find a lot more of a narrow targeting and more engaged audience coming through your ads then. And then, so with, again, the keyword stuffing, AI has sort of forced SEO to be a bit more about relevancy and creating good quality information rather than just ticking off those SEO boxes, making sure that the keywords are in a well-structured article, I guess. But again, if they don't answer the question and the AI that has crawled the page hasn't deemed that you have, then it's just going to go on to the next one and find what's actually giving users what they want. And then back to tracking. So AI has sort of helped on both sides, but in terms of tracking, it's proven quite difficult so far for us in marketing. So it's a really good tool for brand uplift. It allows it allows organizations to get more indirect marketing based on AI queries outside of Google, even in ChatGPT, things like that. But then in terms of tracking where that user's come from, what their search term was, there's really no way to do this at the moment. There's no real source for that query or the ability to implement a UTM. But also, AI has been very good for marketers in terms of helping build out that brief. So sometimes client will come to us with a short brief and we can feed that into ChatGPT or into Google and it'll develop that further and build out like a very top of the line marketing plan that we can go into and build out a bit more and make it more specific to the goals and what we want and any sorts of budgets, things like that. And we've also found those quite good for sending across like content ideation. Sometimes words don't cut it when you're trying to get your idea across to a graphic designer. So if you can very quickly generate an image that's close to what you want or symbolizes what you want, then that speaks a lot louder than the words you can write out. And then there's the impact on businesses and charities itself. So again, brand awareness being the big one. With zero-click information, there's the risk of less brand awareness, but then there's also that potential of increased brand awareness. If you're not in that AI overview, then your brand is now even further down the page. Sometimes you won't even see search results on the screen anymore. So if you're ranked outside probably the top three results now, you may not even appear within like the user's initial sight of the page. But then if you are in that overview, then you're referenced with a direct link to your website, the exact page that has been crawled to show that information, and then your brand name is there so it can show that this is a fully branded experience pretty much. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more competition to be in AI overviews, but it's just about trying to get there first, essentially, like being the early adopter to AI and AI overviews and creating the content that fits within those. And then there's things like AI agents. So shopping and API access is really going to have it's really going to see an impact from AI here because you've got the big players like Google and Amazon that already control a lot of the market, but this gives them a lot more opportunity to control. So AI agents are already helping organize people's schedules to the point where you can tell them where to go for a healthy lunch in the day, you can plan out their outfits for the week, things like that. And this will continue to have an influence throughout their days. So it'll be things like tell them where to shop, like their groceries and things to meet health goals, budgets, and then also more directly impacting charities. So it can tell people which charities align with their values and who they should be donating to. Things like which fundraisers coming up and are close by to their office that they can participate in. So we're going to see marketplaces and directories really seeing an impact and having less of an influence here because ChatGPT, Google, they'll just be giving people more of a direct experience rather than the user having to do their own research. And then again, with donation automation, we have a lot of life automation, as I've just said. So life automation will help, it'll help charities in the sense of regular givers. So some people may set up a regular giving from maybe talking to Siri or Alexa, things like that. But then as AI learns your habits and sees what you're searching, sees what you're interacting with, it might then recommend a change to who you're donating to based on your past behaviors. And this is where we can really see a switch in either more donations coming your way or some lifelong regular givers switching elsewhere, just where maybe their behaviors have changed and they've not really thought about where their regular donations are going to. But because an AI agent has told them maybe this more closely aligns with your value, then there'll be a switch in where their funds are going, essentially. And then what does all this mean and what can charities do? So I'll hand this back to Michelle to explain what it all means for charities and not-for-profits.
So I've talked about all the challenges. A new search landscape where clicks are harder to come by, but it isn't a dead end for what we can all do. In fact, mission-driven organizations like charities, it really presents a massive opportunity. So the key is to adapt our content strategy to focus on one thing AI can't replicate, as we've said throughout this whole presentation, which is authentic human experience. So this slide outlines four key strategies that can help organizations not only survive, but thrive in this day and age. So first, let's look at the power of storytelling. Um, I'm already assuming we're already all great at this, particularly with our mission-driven organizations. We now need to make sure that we're creating stories that showcase your unique impact and wherever possible, include first-hand testimonials from the people you help. So AI is really excellent at summarizing facts, but it still struggles with genuine lived experiences. So content that includes personal narratives and testimonials is a way to demonstrate what Google calls experience and trustworthiness, which are key components. So user-generated content like this is also highly trusted by human audiences, making it a powerful tool for building credibility. It's a way to prove your impact that is both compelling and impossible for any machine to replicate. Second, a powerful strategy is to create case studies and original research. AI models are trained on existing information. They cannot create new verifiable data. So this means that when an organization publishes its own original research, for example, let's say a report on the effectiveness of like a specific program or new data on a social issue such as homelessness or cancer related issues, something like that, it becomes the authoritative source for that information. So this is the kind of unique expert level content that an AI will seek out and cite, giving your organization a massive visibility if you can produce that. It's an effective way to establish your brand as a leader in your field and is a critical part of strengthening your overall authority. So the data you publish can become a go-to reference for journalists, researchers, and other AI systems, all of which will help build your reputation. Thirdly, similar to testimonials, we need to focus on sharing authentic volunteer experiences. These stories aren't just great for recruiting, they are also goldmine to building an emotional connection and trust with your audiences. Think of it as a form of social proof. When an AI or person sees content from a real person talking about a genuine experience, it signals authenticity and trustworthiness. So this kind of content is also more likely to resonate with an audience, driving higher engagement and a deeper connection to your causes. By highlighting real-world stories of your volunteers, you can create powerful human-centric narratives that stand out against just generic algorithm-driven content. Finally, we have to realize that search isn't just about text. AI is now multimodal, meaning it can process and understand different types of content, including visuals. This is why powerful visuals are more important than ever. So a video showing your impact in action or a powerful photograph from a program tells a story in a way that words alone can't. Visuals add an extra layer of authenticity that text can't replicate. They can also be harder for an AI to fully summarize, which may encourage a user to actually click through to your site for the full story. So you want to remember to optimize these visuals with descriptive file names, in alt text, which is alternative text, to help AI systems understand their context. And it's also just great for inclusivity and all as well. So in this new world, your strategy isn't to fight the algorithm. AI is pretty much here to stay, is to create content that is so unique and authentic and valuable that the algorithm has no choice but to feature your content. So by focusing on the human stories and unique data that define your missions, you can cut through the noise and ensure your organization is fully situated when it comes to AI and is recognized as an expert in your field.
Yeah, and with all of that being considered, things like Siri, Google, and Alexa, so they're all trying to give you the best experience based on what they think is the best experience. So it's then good to create content that fits within them and can rank highly. So still working with the search engines when creating your content, but also prioritizing getting your message across. Some people put a lot of thought and attention to what they do. Others like to leave the thinking up to others. And having good quality content that allows these search engines to see you as the answer to the query means you can do that thinking for them. So this requires good quality traditional SEO. Creating relevant and impactful content that is well structured answers what the headlines set out and clearly states the actions that they want to answer, such as donations, research, organization questions, things things like that are what should be prioritized. And then starting to work on this now means that you can be part of those AI models that are currently still in training, basically. They're always going to be in training, but being the early adopter means that you can reap the long-term rewards there when the competition increases. The way that I like to view it at the moment is that it's a bit like the early days of Wikipedia, where you have to be like a trusted source to create anything and to reference anything, because Wikipedia wanted to be that go-to online encyclopedia and was regularly checked by real people. And AI is the same, but it's using every AI answer as that check, essentially, asking you if that's answered your question. And yeah, AI is sort of going through that same learning phase as the early stages of Wikipedia. So becoming that trusted source is what will help your search engine visibility and should increase your visibility within the AI space as well. Thank you all for attending today. So we do have some time left, I think, for Q&A. So send in any questions that haven't already been answered. I can see that Andrea's been getting through quite a few of them. Otherwise, our emails are on the screen if you want anything a bit more in depth, and we'll try and get back to you later on. And yeah, we also have the Search and AI Readiness checklist on our website, which is free to download. So feel free to download that.
Thanks so much, Ryan and Michelle. That was fantastic. We have had lots of questions coming in. I think a couple of people are having issues downloading the guide. So just to bring that to your attention, I think Andrea's in the background trying to fix that up. But I would say to everyone, just take the QR code and just try again with that list later on, because I've managed to download it and it's a fantastic resource to get started with. And I think on that note, I just wanted to put the question to both of you. Obviously, there's a huge amount of information here. Some people in the audience will be more advanced with this. Some people really will be beginning. And I just wanted to ask, in your opinion, what are the top three things that people who have watched this webinar today could go away and think about in their organizations or action in the next week to kind of get started with all of this?
Yep, I can start if you want me to, and you can add in your thoughts as well. I think the biggest thing I've been emphasizing throughout this whole thing is to really focus on creating content that's uniquely situated within an organization. So that deep research is what's being looked for by AI, especially now as AI is all pretty much OpenAI and all these other companies actually looking for data, for information to prove that their models are working correctly. So if you are able to actually provide deep research, that'll be very, very helpful in all of this. So deep research such as, for example, rate of pancreatic cancer affecting like Australians or whatever market you're in, or kind of like very kind of like stats led, kind of all of that. Think of what I like to say, think of you're going back to uni and you're looking at a thesis. Think of something like that in that way. Also think of tracking. So tracking is also another very important thing. Currently, as we know, Google is kind of behind in terms of measuring impact, measuring AI impact on websites, on search and everything there. But you do want to start to have a look into what kind of data can you grasp? How can you actually separate your any in-house data you're actually getting from your users and all, and how can you differentiate that with ChatGPT data? Because right now we can still see that visibility on Google Analytics 4 that you are able to actually see how many people from ChatGPT, from all those other LLMs are coming to your site. So you want to actually start having those conversations now, because if anybody's in any marketing team in any corporate, they're going to be asking you some hardball questions to be like, okay, so should we start providing ChatGPT? You're like, no, this is the actual amount of traffic. This is how quality it is. So you still want to be starting those conversations now. Those are like my biggest two key takeaways from all of this. Ryan, do you have anything to add as well?
Yeah, I think the big one for me is diversifying your content. So just stepping away from search sometimes can be beneficial. Like if you see a massive reduction in certain pages and you're getting a lot lower CTR from different queries, then that may be traffic that you just can't get back really because it is going to an AI overview that someone else has already pretty much made their own. You can compete in that, but then the resources that you spend trying to get that search volume back could easily be put into different platforms like TikTok, like creating video, and then this can also help you realize like a new audience essentially. I think the big thing that we always get is how do we reach younger audiences? Because obviously that's what you want in terms of a lifetime customer. You want to reach a younger audience, and they do tend to be doing a lot of their search in social media now, or at least a lot of their learning in social media. So if you're instead of trying to be the early adopter in reaching in getting into AI overviews and you're putting that into yeah different social media platforms, then it means you're potentially reaching the younger audience ahead of your competitors. And again, it's a very long-term strategy in terms of progressing and getting more regular donations, but it can then set you up better for the future, I believe. So I wouldn't say ignore SEO, but if you see that it could potentially be beyond reach, it's about focusing on different channels after that. Like, don't be scared to diversify.
Great, thank you. I've been keeping an eye on the Q&A during the session, and one of the questions got asked a few times was how, and this can be in your opinion, how accurate slash trustworthy are Google AI reviews?
Yeah.
It's very much, oh, sorry, Ryan, you can go.
Oh, no, go for it.
Oh, okay. Um, it is in terms of accuracy, it all still depending on what websites that they are citing on there. So I can't say it's 100% accurate. Nobody can verify that because it's still gonna cite from other websites. So if you see an AI summary and you type in something, you're going to see it synthesize that information and put it as a summary. But on top of that, you're going to see it actually link or cite where it got that information, which is a really big, powerful thing. So it'll also just give you where it got that information if you want to have a deeper look. So I can't say everything is 100% accurate when it comes to this because at the end of the day, it's still whatever you're going to feed into Google. It's still whatever you're going to feed onto your website that will be crawled.
Great, thank you. Did you have anything to add to that, Ryan, or Michelle's answered that one?
Yeah, same sort of thing, really. Like it depends on the source. Like earlier, actually, I Googled to see if it was a public holiday in Melbourne yesterday as well. On the website there, it crawled for some reason said yesterday, the 1st of October, was not a public holiday. So it gave me correct information, but incorrect at the same time. And it is just still learning. Like I think the early days of AI overviews, they were probably 1 in 5 were very, very off the mark, but now it is becoming a lot more accurate, and it is because there's that less informational content being created. Like I said, like there's less of those how-to guides and things like that, and now it's just well, everything that's trained AI is a lot more resource driven, so it's giving a lot more accurate results.
Okay. There's actually a question here that's kind of related from Nina, and Andrea's currently typing an answer to it, but she has asked, and it's a good question. She's kind of said if the AI model is pulling from things like Reddit, which are obviously very opinion-based sites, what does that mean for accuracy in answers?
Yeah, sorry, I was typing in the answer, but like in terms of AI, Reddit, and like as our websites and other sources on social media will be just one of the sources that it uses, and like thinking that the answers that AI will give will be influenced just by some comments on Reddit is yeah, I don't think is correct because AI is trained with like really complex algorithm and models and a huge amount of data. And like a few comments here and there, they're not going to shift the results. Yeah. And in terms of the positive, though, I think, like that's personal, though, having Reddit or other sources that are referencing directly the user experience and having this personal relation or personal feedback of someone in flesh, let's say, and not as an algorithm behind a data center is actually valuable for other people. And in terms of the charity as well, like this building like this personal relationships with your users, I think it's really important building a community of people, of real people through, for example, volunteering or testimonies. It's really, really valuable when we talk about AI.
Great points. Thanks, Andrea. And thank you for being in the background answering all the questions as they've come in. We are coming up to 1 o'clock, and I don't think any new questions have come in the last couple of minutes. I know I have seen in the chat and the Q&A that a few people are having issues downloading the checklist. I'm sure the Digital Ninjas team will be looking into that. And what we can do, we will be sending out an email to everyone who registered for this webinar. So we will just include the link again for you to download the checklist and you can have another go. So don't worry, you will get your hands on that. So we will send out the slides, the recording and the link to that checklist, and you can go and download that. But thank you, Michelle, Ryan, and Andrea for taking us through this afternoon's webinar. So much to think about. Lots of comments coming through in the chat about how interesting everyone found that. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who came along today and registered for the webinar. We really appreciate that. And we hope that you all have a great afternoon and best of luck with everything that you've learned today. Thank you. Take care, everyone.